In this video, we'll see how properties and binding work with Polymer. I will create a new folder named pddrawer and add two files, pddrawer.html and pddrawer.css. In the pddrawer.html, let us add an empty DOM drawer tag for now and an empty JavaScript declaration. Our element is ready. Let us add some soul to it and see how properties work. If you've ever worked with Angular, Knockout, or any other library that handles data binding, you know how powerful this feature is concerning HTML JavaScript data manipulation. Our pddrawer element will contain two drawers, a left drawer and a right drawer. These drawers will have two states, show or hide. I'll add two properties under the properties property with the name left show and right show. The next step will be to declare the type of each property and the value. In our template, we'll add two input tags with the value of the properties declared. With the use of curly braces, we can connect the values in HTML with the property in JavaScript. Now, let us reference our newly created element in pd-dashboard and add that element in our page. After refreshing our page, you can notice the value of each property displaying in our HTML. That looks great. Let us see what happens once we change the value in the input tag. We notice that it doesn't change below as we would expect. So we have only one-way binding, meaning that the data went from our script to HTML, but once we change the value in HTML, it didn't refresh the value in JavaScript. To prove this, we'll open the debugger and select our element. With the $0 in the console panel, you can see that we can quickly reference the element that was selected by the inspector. So let us see what is the left show value in JavaScript. It is true, although we changed it to false in our HTML. Once we change the JavaScript property to false, you can see everything refreshing on our HTML. The same happens with the right show as well. The conclusion that we reach is that by default in Polymer, our properties are binded from JavaScript to HTML, but not from HTML to JavaScript. Time to see what different types of bindings exist in Polymer and what sort of combinations we can have. The first binding example is the one we previewed together. I've also included the input change event needed for the input native element in Polymer. In the second binding example, we've added the notify true value in our property. Now, we've enabled two-way data binding, so every time we change the value in HTML, it propagates to JavaScript as well. Let us preview this example. We can see the value being true, and once we change it to false, the changes are propagated back to the JavaScript property, and to any other elements as well from there on. In our third binding example, instead of curly brackets, we'll use square brackets. When we use square brackets, we have only one-way binding again. So, either we add the notified true value or not, the changes won't propagate from HTML to JavaScript, just like the first example. In our fourth binding example, we'll use the read-only true value that strongly declares that we have JavaScript to HTML binding only when the element is loaded, and after that there is no binding. When I go back to my code and add this value and refresh my page, the changes are applied. Once I change the values in JavaScript, the changes are not reflected to the HTML DOM.